Welcome and thank you for being here. I'm Brianne Davila, the Associate Dean of Academic Programs and Student Success in the College of Letters, Arts, and Social Sciences, or CLASS. I want to start with some thank yous. I want to recognize some of our team members who've worked really hard to put this lovely gathering together, especially Cynthia Perez, Lisette Rayella, who's back in the Dean's office, Vanessa Franco, Zach Lovich, who isn't here with us but helped out quite a bit when we were going to be in our previous location, and we have some student assistants helping out today, Michelle, Genevieve, and Samantha, probably running around here doing something. Thank you. I also want to recognize the Class Student Success Committee. They worked really hard to represent their departments and to work with their colleagues to solicit alumni nominations for this panel and to solidify today's program. So thank you to those committee members. Thanks. And finally, many thanks to our esteemed alumni and our faculty moderator for being here today. We'll hear more about them soon. So why are we doing this today? Just to give you some background. Commencement's about 6 weeks away, right? Many of our students are preparing to graduate. I imagine they're fielding questions such as, what are you going to do next, right? What are your plans? How will you celebrate? All those sorts of things, which should be exciting and joyous, but I also want to recognize the uncertainty that might accompany such a transition, right? And as we planned this event, we hoped that hearing from some of our alumni, especially those who are doing public good, about their work since graduating from class, would provide the space and opportunity to reflect on their learning, values, and goals for the future. We decided to feature alumni who are doing public good, that is, work that benefits public well-being, because they embody the class mission, vision, and values. So to remind you, our vision in class is that we will be a supportive, engaged, and diverse community of teachers, learners, and scholars committed to improving the human condition and to bettering the world. I'm thrilled that we get to celebrate these alumni who've used their class education to do just that. Now let me tell you a bit about our faculty moderator. Brian Newman is an assistant professor and the production manager in the Department of Theater and New Dance here at Cal Poly Pomona. He teaches courses related to theater production, stage management, and stagecraft. Professor Newman earned his Bachelor of Arts in Theater from Louisiana State University and his Master of Fine Arts from the Professional Theater Training Program at the University of Delaware. He recently represented class and the university as a participant in the Curriculum to Career Institute offered by the American Association of Colleges and Universities. As you can see, Professor Newman is committed to preparing students for the future and a gifted moderator. So thank you, Brian. It is all yours.
Well, thank you, Brianne, for those kind words. Welcome, everybody. As Brianne said, my name is Brian Newman. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Theater and New Dance. My pronouns are he, him. I'm going to ask all of our panelists here to introduce themselves, but I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself very specifically, please. So if you could introduce yourself, share what degree you received from Cal Poly, and what you are up to now, but also what was your first job after you graduated. We're going to just work our way down the line.
Great. My name is Kim Ryan. I graduated with a degree in communications with emphasis in public relations here at Cal Poly. I currently am a public information officer for the Department of Public Health for LA County, so I serve Pomona, LA County here. My first job out of college, well, I have to say, the job I had leaving college, which bled into the end of college, was folding clothes at Ann Taylor. But my first real job out of college was for the Keck School of Medicine of USC's emergency department. I was 22 years old, and it was my job to photograph medical things, put up broadcastings of lectures, and learn way too much about medical information that I was a little scary in the beginning, but and I was there for quite a few years. It was a great learning experience.
Great, thank you. Just work our way down the line.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aina Feeney. I earned my bachelor's degree in history in 2012, and I currently serve as a regional manager for San Bernardino County Library. I oversee programs and services for all 32 libraries, ranging from story time to adult literacy to you name it. I book Spider-Man for special events, and I oversee our curriculum, such as, we make a ghost eating a pizza as a craft, fun things like that. Similar to what Kim said, my first job bled from undergrad into getting my master's degree. Had a lot of part-time jobs at that time. So I worked at a music store part-time, making $8 an hour. I was a school librarian 10 hours a week as another job, and I don't quite recall that much because I've had 4 children since then, and I didn't sleep much, so forgive me for not remembering what my last job was, hence my expression of how do I answer this. So it's an honor to be here.
Hi, my name is Brittany Butler, and I'm graduated in 2018 with a degree in political science. I'm currently a public defender for San Bernardino County. If anyone doesn't know what a public defender is, it's a criminal defense attorney, and your rights of if you can't afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you. That's me. My first job out of college was law school. I went straight through. I didn't take any gap years or anything, so I graduated from here in May, and I started law school in August, and 3 years of law school, and then got hired with the Public Defender's Office, where I've been for about 1.5 years now. So very happy to be here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Violeta Villagomez. I graduated here 2017, I believe, if my memory is serving me right. My major was Spanish with a minor in TESOL. My professors. And right now, well, my first job, I think it was in a tutoring center. I don't recall much either. I have 2 kids, so yeah, that takes a lot of time. But right now I'm working in a private company. We take Spanish everywhere in LA. So right now I am the backyard coordinator, but also the education specialist, and I actually wear many hats. I also teach, so yeah, that's what I'm doing now. And yeah, it's an honor to be here.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg. Pleasure to meet everyone here. Thank you for having me here. And I graduated from Cal Poly in 2017, or I think still 2017. But if I don't remember, it's because it's like such great memories. Like, oh, you just wish you were, Cal Poly's an amazing school. My first job was Title Max, which deals with like title loans. And so at that point on, I started learning about marketing and business. But when I was over here in Cal Poly, I had double major in EWS and also kinesiology health promotion. So down the line, I went to a community health clinic, East Valley, so local clinic, and I was able to incorporate both of those fields together. And then I got into the county, and then I started working for public health. So right now, currently, I'm working for the public health department, and right now, the best thing about it is I'm able to incorporate my culminating experiences. So I'm able to include the make everything equitable and make sure everything meets the standards of equity, and also cover any health disparities out there.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So now's the time where we're going to open it up for some questions from the floor. So I'm looking around the room, and I'm going to see if anybody has questions. And if we don't have questions, I'm going to start making things up. Oh, I see a question in the back.
I'd like to know from all of you a moment or many moments where you really felt called to work for the people. I think it's so incredible what the people is doing. It would be so inspiring for all of us to hear about a moment, if you remember.
Whoever wants to just jump in, I'll let y'all start.
I can start. So I knew that I wanted to be a lawyer since I was 9. I was in 6th grade, and my parents were like, "You're very good at arguing. You should go get paid for it." And so it went from I want to be a princess to I want to be a lawyer, and there was no in between. I didn't know what type of law I wanted to do. I knew that in high school I did the mock trial competition, and that's where I knew I wanted to be in the courtroom every day. If you want to be in the courtroom every day, you kind of only have 2 options, whether that's a prosecutor or a public defender. So when I came to Cal Poly Pomona for the political science department, we had to either get an internship or write a very long paper that I did not want to write. And so I went the internship route. I applied for both the district attorney and the public defender's office, got hired with the public defender's office, and have been there ever since. It was really in that moment where I was dealing with people who suffer from mental illness and addiction and unemployment and who were abused as children. And just to really connect with them on a personal level and make them feel heard, and them being grateful for me for just taking the time to listen to them. That's when I kind of knew that I didn't want to do anything else, was when people were very grateful to just have their stories be heard and not to just be brushed away like they have been for most of their lives.
So during my end of high school years and my 4 years here at Cal Poly, I worked at Raging Waters, the local water park, and I was a lifeguard. I started as your basic lifeguard, and I spent 6 years there working my way up through management, literally helping people not drown. And so that kind of was the basis of helping people. I wanted my job at USC's medical school in the emergency department because I had been a lifeguard. I knew I wasn't going to be a doctor, but I had the communication skills, so why not go get a job doing something that directly corresponded with what I liked doing? If you're unfamiliar, USC's medical school has a direct relationship with a hospital called LAC-USC, which is the largest county hospital in LA. Much of their clientele is uninsured, underinsured, not able to necessarily get proper medical care in the regular convention. During my time there, in my first year, I worked with their public information officer when there were things happening that the public needed to know about. And there was a bus crash, and I watched this public information officer deliver the information to very worried families in both English and Spanish, and I realized that I was having a direct effect on the public, and being a public servant in my capacity and what I knew how to do as a comms professional. This is something that I could do with my life. It would be rewarding. I not only could do things that I absolutely loved, but I could do them in a job that directly affected my community and the people around me and the place that I lived. And I carried that through multiple jobs. I worked for the city of Pasadena for a while. I also lived in the city in which I worked. And so my coworkers were people that were affecting the place that I lived. And that has continued on since now working for the public health department. It's no secret, working in public health for the last few years has been interesting, to say the least. But the work that I've done and the content and information that I've put out to my community, my 10 million community members at LA County, have had a direct effect. And quite frankly, it's been incredibly rewarding. It's probably the most proud I've ever been of the work that I've done in my career these last couple of years.
Does anybody else want to jump in on that one?
Yeah. As for me, when I was in high school, I started volunteering at my local elementaries. When I came here, and I worked at the tutoring center here in Pomona, and I realized I could understand most of the things in my classes, better than other students, and so I decided to work at the student center and help them out, and that is how I knew I wanted to keep going on that path. So yeah, that.
And,
Greg looks like he's jumping in.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And so for me, it started with coming to Cal Poly, and you interact with a lot of students and all your classmates and everything. You have these conversations, and it's always very helpful. And for me, I knew I was always going to deal something with dealing with the community, dealing with helping people. And as time went by, I always just being there for the people. So then I eventually saw public health as an option. So where I went started working for them. What I enjoy the most is just being able to help out those who are underserved, underrepresented, under-resourced. Just recently, CDC in 2021 now considers racism a health concern, a health disparity. So to be able to incorporate that from learning that in the EWS background and all those classes that I was able to take, it felt so great to actually kind of be able to use that knowledge and bring awareness. So now I guess that was like the whole goal of how things just kind of just happens, but it's a beautiful thing. So yeah, I guess that's the thing right now.
Did you want to take that one, Nina?
Yes, that would be great. When I was an undergrad, I was a junior, and I was in the library, and something common I found in the history department is if you don't want to become a teacher, you wonder what are the rest of the history graduates going to do. So I spoke to a colleague in one of my classes who I knew was graduating, and I asked her, what are you going to do after this? And she told me she was going to go to library school. And in that moment, as magical or romantic as that sounds, it just clicked, and I started to recall memories that I had of being a child and going to the library, finishing books on the way home in the car from the library, and those positive memories I had. And so I think making those connections with your peers in the department was really helpful, because everyone is coming from a similar boat. They're wondering, where do I go from this? And just that was definitely formative for me.
Awesome. Thank you all very much. Did anybody else have a next one? No? Yeah.
I have two questions, so I'm going to ask both. What questions you can usually ask? One is if you can address the foreign students and give them a recommendation on something that they could do now while they're still in college, something that now looking back you wish you have done, or that you that think is important that you did that helped you in your path forward. Or you can choose to address the professors or administrators and give us a recommendation on something that we can do in our programs or at Cal Poly to better help our students.
Okay, I'm going to actually exercise some moderator discretion here. We're going to save the student advice for the end, because that was my closing question to everybody. So I like the way you're thinking there. But yeah, were there things that you felt you were unprepared for as you took those first steps that you can address to those of us who are on the educator side that we should be hearing at this time?
I think the biggest thing is the understanding that you're not going to have your guidance counselor anymore. It's like you always have the advisor to talk to, like, oh, hey, doctor, you could talk to like your deans and everything, and they'll tell you like the right courses of action. But when you graduate, it's kind of like, oh, wow, you don't have that anymore. And so now it's kind of like but you got to just look back at all those great wisdom that you were able to learn and acquire, and you just kind of start to kind of go from that point on. But otherwise than that, yeah, I think that's the thing that's like the differences, like that transition.
Mm-hmm. So are there things that you felt your faculty should have given you that you didn't get?
Oh, no, I think I think it was amazing, because I think it's still, I mean, still at the same time, like
I promise I didn't pay him.
I think the thing, let's see, that's a good question. That's a good follow-up question, trying to think of that one. But no, I feel like maybe something that I've always felt that like internships and like I learned a lot from. I know sometimes we would have like we had to do credit hours, and so sometimes we would be like, okay, we have to go to. I think one of them was, I remember going to for a Native American experience class. I went to boarding school for that semester or for the quarter back then, and then be able to learn like just different things and everything I was able to learn in class. So definitely that was a great experience, and it'd be awesome to see a lot more classes like that where it interacts with like outside of that still deals with the school realm, but also incorporates some sort of like internships or stuff like that.
Anybody else want to take that one?
I can answer.
Go for it.
So it's really interesting. So I graduated here, I graduated from Cal Poly in 2011, which was on the cusp of what social media, I mean, we had no idea, right? I joined Cal Poly in 2007. This was the first year that you could join Facebook, that you needed a school email address. Like we're talking the very beginning of what social media looked like. If you're unfamiliar with communications work, obviously social media takes up a huge part of the landscape. It is no longer newspapers and terrestrial radio, right? So my professors did a good job of preparing us for what there was at the time. But I definitely think now, and I'm sure there is more of it, but a discussion of what could come and what was coming probably would have been helpful. You know, I didn't even post my high school graduation on Instagram because it didn't exist yet. It had been born like 6 months earlier from my graduation date. So in the time that I graduated to now, right, the amount of things that I now pay attention in my career it's really incredible, and how core they are. And as a younger person going out and interviewing for jobs or looking for a new opportunity, this is such a big thing that's being discussed, that I do assume it probably is incorporated now more, but realizing that we were living in this changing landscape and trying to prepare us maybe for that would have been interesting or helpeither.
If anybody says they knew that the social media revolution was going to happen before it did, I'm calling it. Either that or they're a very, very rich person.
Yeah, of course.
Anybody else? So there was something that I've heard come up a couple of times, which was internships. I'm seeing nods from a couple of you. Did all of you partake in internships while you were here in school, or in the law school time, or in graduate school?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what an internship was or an externship or anything like that until really being here. You know, we're all, I think now, you know, as the younger generation, even watching my sister and my brother, it's like you have to volunteer from like age 3 if you want to get into anything, and you have to have all of these accolades before going to college. But I didn't have any of that. I didn't know any of that. And so when the political science department made us get an internship, I really used it as an opportunity to kind of go into something that I was interested in, which I think is really important. I don't know if anybody here is interested in law school, but it's a 3-year commitment and it's a lot of money commitment. And so the amount of people that enter law school that then drop out after the first semester or the first year because it wasn't for them have wasted about $90,000 in student loans. And so I think that internships, especially at this level, are very important because I know it's most of the time free labor for an organization or a company, but you should really get as much experience as you can in the things that you're interested in before committing to graduate school, especially if it's a huge money commitment like medical school or law school. Try to get as much experience as you can at the college level to kind of know that you for sure want to be a lot of money in debt. So that was mine.
Go for it, Greg.
And I'm just going to add on to that. I like how you bring up that point because I think now I think about it, I was like, wait, I got really lucky to have like the internships, or like for EWS, we had a senior thesis project. So it's like a whole year project, but we were able to choose the topic that we want and then exactly be able to kind of study like the environment that we're in or whatever our topic pertains to. So it was like I was able to see that. But then for kinesiology, at one point in time, I wanted to be a physical therapist. And so when I started to do an internship as a PTA, it was like, oh my goodness, I don't know if this is for me anymore. But luckily, I still want to do health, but I later on switched to a route for health promotion and public health. But I think something that would be very, very helpful would be that able to have internships at an early, like I guess like the good advice would be to have that get promoted as incoming freshmen or incoming sophomores, and as kind of like Brittany's mentioning, so it doesn't avoid that loss of time or loss of finance.
If I may.
Yeah, please.
In similar vein to the internships, I think working in general is really beneficial for undergrad because thinking now as someone who participates in recruitment and I oversee employees, and I think about my experience of college, it wasn't just classes. It was the combination of classes and having to just work really, really hard. And I think about what would I want undergraduate students to take out of that. It's even if you work at Taco Bell, and as well as in your college class where you're not sure, why am I taking this history class? I'm not even a history major. What are the things that you take away when you walk out with that diploma, which is having to get along with people, having to finish what you start, having to report someplace on time, having to answer to a supervisor or a professor that maybe you don't really like that much, but you have to smile and grin and bear it anyways. So even if undergraduate students cannot necessarily get their dream internship that solidifies, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, having that practical work experience that just develops your grit, I think is invaluable. And then your future employer is going to see that on your application and know, even if that person doesn't have the exact degree we're looking for, but they're able to posture themselves and explain why they're going to be the hardest worker, the most innovative thinker, then they're going to be someone who is valuable to that organization.
I'd like to second that. As the person who made the orange juice at the farm store here on campus, that wasn't an item on my resume, but I did know how to deal with customers. I helped run a store. I had a job that I had to show up to all the time. And so absolutely, that was something that was on my resume when I went to go get full-time work. So any work, especially if you're a person who's paying to put themselves through college, 100% worth it.
Yeah, I want to lift up something that was said and compliment all the students in the room. Cal Poly students have grit. That is not something you see at every school. That is not something you see with students from every program, okay? You got it. You're going to be all right, okay? I want to open it up for other questions out there. One, then two. Students, you're going to go to the front of the line if you want, so raise your hands. Go back first. 1, 2, 3. Has questioning the public sector, corruption in the public sector. That's a great
That's a really
question.
good question.
Can I take that one?
Oh, please.
I work with dignitaries all the time, and we have to do things with the library, some things that are surprising, like reserving parking spots, having to write talking points that they don't use anyhow for these special events, for ribbon cuttings. And I ask myself at the end of those days, I talk to my husband about it and I tell him why, this stinks. This is not why I went into public libraries. But then I see my children reading books. I see children walking in the library for the first time and their eyes light up. And I remember that's why I'm there. So I think with every job, there's going to be challenges that are political, even in the private sector. You just have to constantly revisit your why, and as long as you stay focused on that, then no matter what you go through at work, you'll be able to get through it and have things to come home to after work that will help you get through some of those challenging, tricky situations.
Yeah. Outside of work isn't life.
Very true.
Okay.
Very true.
Yeah, you're.
I just had a quick question. How many of you have work or do work with interns right now? And can you offer any resources to our students?
Anybody hiring?
I'm
what I heard.
actually I was actually talking to my director right before I was leaving here. I was saying like, hey, you know what? I'm very, very passionate to giving back, especially to like the Broncos. That's who we are and everything. That feels good, And I was talking to her and I was saying, hey, Salo, can we create an internship program? And I'm hoping that So I was looking forward to maybe today, if anyone is interested in dealing with the public health sector, definitely please reach out to me, and looking forward to maybe creating something.
If you haven't familiarized yourself with the government jobs website or any of the websites, USA Jobs for federal jobs and state jobs, I highly recommend you do that as soon as possible. They often require several steps, cover letters, things like that. You can bookmark certain types of jobs that they'll send you emails when those jobs are available. There's tons and tons of positions. LA County employs over 100,000 people. So if that's something you're interested in, get at it. And I'd be more than happy to help if you want to reach out to me.
And for my Spanish majors, we're always helping. We're always hiring. We could do internships in summer camp for our summer camps. Also, it's great for college students. That little extra time that they have, they can do classes either in person or online. So we offer a range of variety for you guys. So you can reach out to me after if you're interested and that's what you want to do.
Yeah, and a quick plug for the Career Center on campus. They're going to know how to get a hold of those places that have been mentioned, and they can help you with that cover letter, that first resume, things like that. Okay. Somebody,
I just was curious. My kids who are in college age, just graduating, I told them to go to the Career Center and have interviews on campus. They said they don't do that anymore. Did any of you have interviews on campus, or did you just use Handshake, or how did you get that first job out of college? Did you use Handshake? Because people talk about Handshake all the time. But did it exist when you guys were looking for jobs?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
that's it's an on-campus.
Okay.
It's on campus.
Yeah, for me, going off what Kim said, I think I use the governmentjobs.com website in looking for internships with the public defender or the district attorney's office, as well as if you're looking for like a nonprofit, you can just go on to their website and you can find the contact information for them. I interned for the Innocence Project during law school, and I just went on their website and I found someone's contact information and emailed them saying I was interested in working. So I didn't necessarily use the career services office while I was here. I kind of just went on my own to find different things, but I give that same advice to people in law school looking for jobs. If you know where you want to work in particular, you don't have to wait for a job fair. You don't have to wait for them to come on campus or use a resource here. You can just reach out to them directly, and they're usually, responsive in setting up an interview with you.
Yeah, and like mentioning earlier, as you said, Broncos have grit. I definitely totally agree to that. If anyone's looking for a job or just in there, apply to like 300 for every 100. You might get one job, but I mean, like one opportunity. Like sometimes, so you just gotta keep applying. And in regards to the career services, I remember, it wasn't Handshake that I used, but it was another program where you answer like 100 questions, and then it tells you like after an hour, you're like, oh my gosh, so many questions, right? But at the end, it gives you like an assessment of what type of careers would best fit you.
I did use the Career Center. I didn't get a job through them, but they did send me out on interviews for job postings. I unfortunately did not get any of those jobs, but and some of those are the hardest working people here on campus. They really, really want to help. It's a great organization. I assume it still is. I also want to note, and I'm sure my colleagues here will say, government jobs, they've made it so that there isn't just get my cousin a job kind of deal. There's a lot of steps they've put in place so that everybody gets a chance. Everybody who applies gets their resume reviewed. You go into a pool of people. They review everyone. You get a rejection if you've been rejected. If you haven't been rejected, you'll get an invite. And so it's important to put yourself out there and apply for those. No one's going to come find you. You need to go to them, and you need to get your name on the lists. You need to get in their pool of people that they're looking at hiring from. And then once you're in, as I'm sure other people say, you're in. When you're in a county, when you're in a city, moving amongst the different departments and the different stuff is a lot easier, as they often will open only lateral moves or only internal positions. And I know that's a little bit of wonky talk and internal talk, but I think it's something important to highlight if you're looking at being a public servant for your career.
I'll just plug from my own experience. Applying for jobs that maybe aren't in the area that you want to be, but are with the organization you want to be with. a lot of chances. Sometimes you just get your foot in the door and it happens. Somebody mentioned earlier your why, knowing your why. I'm looking right at her. I kind of want to open that up to everybody. What's that guiding light in your career path and your day to day? What gets you going? So
Should I start?
I'm going to start with you. Yeah, start with you.
My guiding light are 5 people in this room, and they're my children and my husband, and of course my mom and the rest of my family is here. But I can't emphasize that enough. It's authentically my response, and I know a lot of folks, regardless of season of life, it resonates with them that my family keeps me going. They are why on my worst day that I want to quit, I go back to work the next day. Or my field of work is somewhat unique in that in the age of technology, I still get the question, oh, libraries exist? I didn't know that. And so being able to be a role model for my children to show them, yes, because there are still a lot of people who love learning just because they like learning. They love reading just because it's fun. And so being able to practice what I preach for them makes, again, as I had mentioned, all those nitty-gritty, challenging situations worthwhile. So.
Who wants to go next?
My why is for the clients that I have been able to help get back on the right track, whether that's them suffering from mental illness their whole life and me being the first person to recognize that and set them up with a social worker or get them evaluated by a doctor from our office to have them be on medication or therapy for the first time. Being a public defender is hard. It's hard. And you see a lot of stuff every day, and you see people incarcerated for possession of a shopping cart, and they're homeless, and that's their home. And so it's a hard job, but I've kind of saved screenshots of text messages or emails from clients saying, like, you've changed my life. You know, I finally got custody of my kids back, or I finally got a job after not being employed for 20 years because I was addicted to meth or whatever. So I think it's those types of clients that you can really impact their life and help them. That's what keeps me going in my job.
For me, it's several things. Well, first of all, I have my kids and I want them to be bilingual or more, not to lose their Spanish, as many of us do when we come here early and, we don't keep on with the Spanish. And also the people I help at work, the children, when I see their little faces light up when they can say a whole sentence in Spanish, and they started from not even saying hola, and even the adults. Also, my coworkers and the people that I hire to, their first opportunity in teaching. So those things are the ones that keep me going.
A why would be having fun helping people, and it sounds kind of cliche, but if I could elaborate on that, I remember when you're helping someone, if you enjoy it, if you're having fun, and it's depends how you're helping them. So for example, I know I used to do Medi-Cal enrollment, and it's very, very helpful, but I was I cannot stay seated on a computer for 10 hours looking at files, even though it was really rewarding, but it's it wasn't fun for me. It was kind of exhausting. So then it's about trying to find that fun, that passion that you enjoy. So for example, now, and through my experiences of work and looking back at my experiences with school, it came down to okay, I have fun helping people, but bringing awareness, bringing education. So then with the job I'm in now, it's okay, I'm able to bring awareness, do presentations, try to create programs, and just do stuff with media. So that's that. I guess the why would be having fun and loving what you're doing. So if you could find, for me personally, that's what worked for me, and I feel if that could be found with everyone, is I don't think you could go wrong with that,
Well, working in public health has a lot to do with equity, and so does being a public servant in general, because everyone deserves to have the information. I'm a public information officer. That means what I'm delivering to the public needs to be understood. It needs to be easy to read. It needs to be translated. We do 13 languages in LA County. It means that everybody deserves to know what's going on. And in the face of a pandemic, which of course is my main subject matter for the last couple of years, it means knowing where your nearest vaccine site. It means knowing how to get to where you can get testing, how to properly wear a mask, how to wash your hands. Do you live in a household with multiple generations of family? Do you need to protect them? Here's how to do so. Here's in a language that you'll understand. Here's graphics that maybe work better for your type of population. It's being a person who spends a lot of time making sure that all of the people who need this information can get it, and that's what keeps me going. I'm privileged in my life, and making sure that I'm doing everything that I can in the capacity of my job to make sure that everybody is safe and saving lives and things like that. I don't know if Greg has experienced the same in working for the public health department, but I've authored the daily press release for COVID-19 for the last 350 days, last 400 days. That means publishing the amount of people who've died the day before. It's a reminder, a daily reminder of what's going on in our county, in our world, and remembering that the work that I'm doing directly affects the community and people in which I live. So that's what keeps me going.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate that. We have questions out there yet? Anybody?
So we've said that we're our students right now who are graduating keep getting the question like, well, what's next? I'd like to ask you all, what's next?
Who wants? Just jump in. Whoever wants to start.
For me, I postponed going into my master's for a while now. I have a 6-month-old baby, so I think she needs to be a year so I can, have a peace of mind, and then I'll go into a higher education, my master's in higher education. So that's next for me.
All right, Greg, you're up next.
Oh man, how'd you
You're
know?
going to
Let's
get voluntold if you don't volunteer.
Thank you, thank you. What's next? So I definitely love still dealing with the public health realm. That I really, really appreciate that. And luckily, right now, I feel I have a lot of energy, so I still want to put a lot more time into doing a lot of things. One of them is hopefully is a thought I thought about before, but maybe being like a professor, like a part-time professor, that'd be kind of cool. And then also another thing would be currently what I'm doing right now is also just media. So I've always been a fan of sports, specifically boxing and mixed martial arts. So I do media for them. I do I have like my press credentials. So just kind of getting into that world. So definitely and also creating brands. So like, let's say if it's like working with companies that needs like a new startup company, if they need help creating a brand, something like that. So I think that's really what's next for me. And the cool thing about it is that it all is still within kind of like the same things I do within my 9 to 5, like my daily work, where it's still the same workflow.
I know.
When I was in high school, I thought about next is going to be college. After undergrad, then it's going to be my master's degree. Then when I get this job, I'm going to promote, and I'm going to get the next job and become head of the company or what have you. And right now, I just want to be honest, I'm so content in my job, and I want undergrads to know that sometimes you reach that point where you're okay with where you are in your job, and you just want to enjoy your family. So my next step right now is just spending time with my children and with my husband, day to day, watching them grow. We homeschool our children, so every day is a new adventure of learning with them. And I just feel like I want to share that with young students, because that might be them someday.
Cool. Kim, you're up.
I have to agree somewhat with Ina. I'm really happy with my job and my position and the type of work that I do. So I am doing things like this. I'm supplementing my life. I have a husband, and we have hobbies and things like that. But I've started to enjoy doing things like this, coming and speaking on panels. I have a good relationship with the comms department. I've guest lectured a few times over the last couple of years. And so coming and giving back to an organization that I'm so profoundly proud of is how I'm starting to supplement my life. So that's what I consider to be next, and I agree. It's okay to be happy where you are. You don't need to constantly climb. If you've found a place where you are happy, happiness is worth a lot, and make sure to take the time and enjoy that.
Brittany.
I want to echo what both of them said, and I think that for any student here, you're already an overachiever just by coming to these talks. And for me, I went from kinder to law school graduation with no breaks. And so I became a lawyer at 25, and I was always dedicated in school. I knew that I was going to go into this career from a very young age, and then I got there, and I didn't know what to do with myself because there was nowhere else for me to go. I reached the peak at 25, and I was like, okay, I've achieved my life goal at 25. I'm good. And it was a very kind of difficult transition to be that young and already have achieved your life's goal. And so it's, for all the students in here, you know, it's okay to be content with your job at 25, 26, 27, if that's what you know that you wanted to do. So it was kind of very difficult from 25 to 27 to kind of be like, okay, there's not a what's next. There's not, like, I'm doing my dream job right now. I don't see myself doing anything else. And I've got 40 more years of work in front of me. So if you get to a point and you're like, wait, I've reached my goal, like, that's okay too. You don't always have to be reaching for something else. And I think that that's a generational thing. And I think the younger generation is always told you got to keep going and you've got to achieve more and you've got to be better than your parents and this, that, and the other. But if you get to a point and you're like, wait, there's not a what next, like, that's okay. And don't feel like you're doing something wrong just because you feel like you don't know if there's going to be something after this. So.
And it's okay to not know for a while.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to tie a thread through several things that were said here, that you might be fine with where you are now, but it might change. Mm-hmm. You might be on growth, and then it stabilizes. It's not a constant. Growth is not linear. So, any questions? I haven't heard from this table over here. There we go. I'm going to go there, y'all.
I worked at In-N-Out, and I worked at In-N-Out all 4 years of college until starting law school. And I think, as people mentioned earlier, it really teaches you different skill sets than outside of the education part of it. So working at In-N-Out, you know, dealing with customers and dealing with managers, and I work with people every single day. I work with drug addicts and homeless people, and I have to be able to make conversation with any type of person. And so working in customer service during undergrad really helped me develop those skills in order to, you know, deal with an angry customer who didn't get onions on their burger versus someone yelling at me from behind a jail cell, why am I not going home? And it's that still same skill set of being able to, like, recognize a problem and talk through it and, you know, find a solution, whether that's at In-N-Out or as a lawyer. It's the same skill set. So I feel like that's kind of how I used, you know, a In-N-Out job to kind of help develop my skills as an attorney.
Kim, then Violetta.
I think Ina mentioned this earlier about working with people maybe you don't like or don't like you. I think that's something you can directly draw from any job that you have in high school and college. It's also really interesting to see how you can, you know, wind things through and how they end up being something that you pull. And I'm going to embarrass her, but there's a gal here in the back of the corner who's running the AV equipment. And I was part of the staff that she's part of when I worked here at Cal Poly, which is conference and events assistant. And I would set up all these tables and chairs, and I would have to do them in a certain amount of time, and I'd have to pay attention to a schedule. And sometimes I would set up the room wrong, and then we would have to do it all in like the spur of the moment, or sometimes the cables don't work. And being able to pivot was a major skill that I utilized in my career. Being able to converse with people that I don't really know anything about what they're doing. Working in communications means pivoting, and it means blending as fast as you can. Working in an industry that maybe you don't know anything about, representing a company that you don't know anything about, and all of a sudden it's now your job. In any job that you have to learn. You have to learn about the stuff. You have to learn about the clothes, the food, the smoothies, the onions, the potatoes. You know, it's all there. And maybe write it down one day. Maybe keep track of all those things you did it in and out, those skills that you had to learn, because I guarantee you they'll come back around.
Did anybody else want to take this one?
I think it's just like what everyone was saying. I think definitely like you said earlier, it's like making a thread. If I could do a thread, it's those jobs that, let's say, that builds that character over time. And most importantly, I think like all those jobs, whether it was like the physical labor jobs or it was retail or customer service jobs, that just all those type of different jobs out there. The great thing about that is that the way it builds character, that builds emotional intelligence. You start to kind of build like the ability to kind of understand people's needs and their wants and be able to be empathetic about that. And that later on carries you so far in your future career, for sure.
So I'm going to jump in and ask we got time for a couple more questions, and there's two that's on the agenda that I'm going to make sure they get asked. The first, the world that we live in is a stressful place, and we often experience a lot of stress in ourselves that we put on ourselves, that's externally put upon us. So I want to know what your hobbies are and what do you do to mitigate that stress in your life? And all of you are going to have to answer that one. Sorry.
Okay. Currently, I like to bike ride a lot. My husband and I do that together, which means going outside, which we live in Southern California, so like go outside because that's an option for us. At least now. It rained for 47
4
months.
years, but
yeah. Getting outside and experiencing outside is good. We bike ride a lot. We also like board games and spending time with our friends. When I was a student here, I wanted to touch on this really quickly. I was a commuter student, so I also made a priority to join a lot of clubs and have a lot of different types of friends in different organizations. And I think that can be a really great stress outlet, to have people here on campus that you can go spend time with, especially if you're going to go home to your home, maybe where your parents are, or, you know, whatever, roommates at the end of the night. Have your people, and that's what I do with my husband.
So I live in Big Bear, and I love the outdoors, so that is an obvious one. One thing that I enjoyed when I was an undergraduate student, it's how my husband and I met. We played music together. And years later, now 2 of our 4 children play piano, and I sit with them every single day and practice with them. And I mention that because not only do I love music, but I think between undergrad and now, there was a point in time where I used to wonder, am I ever going to get to play music again and enjoy it? And now I get to enjoy it a little differently, more rewarding, if you will, because now I get to see my children light up when they learn how to play a song. So I'm trying to blend that answer with something practical for undergrad students, which is I know a lot of them are thinking, when am I ever going to get to read a book or do something fun? You say it's a stress outlet, but the idea of setting aside stress management time is stressful. So there will be a time to add those things back into your life. So that music and being outdoors are my favorite things.
I love sports. If I can go to a sporting game, I will be there. I also love traveling. I travel a lot with my mom, and to combine the two, we go to all of the Major League Baseball stadiums and hockey arenas in the country. We were, we finished baseball a few years back, and now we're doing hockey. So last weekend we were in Seattle, and tomorrow we're going to Arizona. So I just am always on the go, and it is how I compartmentalize leaving work at the door. I think that that's really important. As you mentioned at the beginning, work is not everything. You need to still have your hobbies and enjoy your life and the people around you, and you cannot be consumed by your work.
For me, I enjoy swimming. Right now, I'm taking it really slow, After I gave birth to my baby, I was hospitalized for 2 weeks, so I'm barely, getting to the place I was before that. So I'm taking it really slow and just swimming two times a week. But before, it was going, outdoors, hiking, biking, and, teaching my son to skate and all of those things. So mostly spending time with my kids.
Greg?
For myself, and all amazing hobbies around. They're all great. For myself, I think a creative outlet will be just being physically active, and the physical activity will always change. It'll be like one moment is biking, or another moment is like, oh, I'm gonna go swimming or go surfing. It just always changes. But I would say something that's always consistent, I found it will be writing. I always enjoyed writing, reading. If it's writing, it could be like writing lyrics. It could be writing like screenwriting, like scripts, so stuff like that. But yeah, just always that's always a consistent outlet for sure.
Thank you. And we've got time if a student wants to ask a question. Yes.
So I have two. So how did you guys find that balance, especially in undergrad, like your regular life, or school life, work life? It's really hard to juggle all of them right now. And the other one is, how did you decide whether you wanted to go back to school or just stay where you were? I'm just asking this because I'm not sure if I want to go back to school or just focus on myself and create a life, find a partner, have kids, just how did you guys decide that part?
We're going to jump around a little bit on this one. I'm going to turn to Ina first.
Oh, sure. Okay, so the first question about finding balance, honestly, how I did things in undergrad is a lot like my life now as a mother working. In undergrad, you're jumping from class to class and you're I told my son, that's the parking lot where I used to take naps all the time. And you're trying to figure out, and then while I'm, putting a load of laundry in, I'm studying, and you're just juggling all of it. Well, that is a lot like real life, where I'm putting 10 loads of laundry in and then checking my son's homework, and then I'm having to, I wake up this time in the morning, like 5 a.m., to just have quality time with my husband, to just talk. So it's nonstop. So I think work-life balance, you just have to fit in somehow, some way, even if it's 5 minutes, if it's 10 minutes, you just have to find the time, or make the time, I guess if you will, for that to happen. And then I think I was very similar to Brittany, where I just went straight, but I also, I did all the things at the same time. It's like I was dating my then boyfriend, now husband, while I was in school and working. And I think that sometimes there's the misunderstanding that first I'm gonna get the good job, then I'm gonna meet the person, then I'm gonna save and buy the house, then we're gonna have children. Sometimes it all just happens at once, and that's okay. It's more about, again, I think the recurring theme is your grit. Just figure out how to get through it. I don't know. I learned that from my mom. She worked for 30 years. I have to shout out to her. She worked for 30 years for the state of California, and she did everything all at once. And sometimes that's just the reality. You just have to stay positive, and again, go back to your why.
Yeah, I'm just trying to prevent the burnout. I know I'll
Yeah.
end up preparing more damage than I could have prevented.
Does anyone else have
Anybody else
burnout
want to jump in on
prevention
that one?
advice that goes?
Yeah, I think in deciding, I don't know if you know what you want to do, if that requires another degree after this. For me, I knew myself, and I knew if I didn't go straight through, there was a possibility that I would never go back. The average age for law school entering classes is 27. So if people graduate from undergrad at like 22, they take a few gap years. And I will say that I can only speak for law schools, but a majority of law schools look for work experience between college and law school, and that is very heavily weighed of kind of you've started a career, you've been in the workforce for 5 years, you're not just some kid right out of college. And they do take that into consideration a lot, but I just knew for myself that I just had to keep going because I didn't want to take that risk of taking breaks and then not being able to go back. So that's why I went straight through, but I was 22 when I started law school, and everyone else above me was like 27, 28, 29, 30. And they had all of this like work and life experience in between, and that really set them apart from us kids who went straight through too. So it kind of just depends on you and your personality. If you feel like I can take a few gap years and I want to get work experience and, you know, build my life and my character, that's fine. But for someone like me, I was like, I don't want to risk not being able to go back into being a student again. So that's why I went straight through.
I took some time off in between. I have a master's degree. I took about a year and a half before I applied to go to grad school. For me, it was a couple of things. I really actually missed learning. Go figure. But also, in communications, most people don't get higher degrees. It's based on experience. And I felt that a master's degree would give me an edge. I also thought that something of a management type degree, which is what I got, I have a master's in leadership and management, would be really helpful in the long run. I think that's true. I think that's how that worked out for me. So I went to school at night and on the weekends. And that was really tough, but I did it when I was young at least. So like, you know, it was just me. I didn't have a family or anything like that. It took me 2 years to complete it. I don't have any regrets. The coolest part of it all, and my dad is here, is that my mom went back to school with me, and we graduated with master's degrees together. So I would actually suggest that in that vein, for things that are going to cause you burnout, for things that are going to overwhelm you, is try to inject some fun or things that will help. Maybe try to arrange your schedule with more friends that are in your classes so you can do it together. Join an organization that has directly to do with your majors so you have people going through the same thing that you are. Also join a social club, some organization that's social so you have an outlet with people who are interested in the same things that you are, that can commiserate, that can eat Cheez-Its in your car at 10 o'clock at night in Lot J because you're tired and you've been in class all day, right? I saw everybody roll their eyes. They know what I'm talking about. Tuesdays, right? Those Tuesday, Thursday late night classes are the worst. So that would be my suggestion. Yeah.
Okay. Just on the interest of time, we're going to jump to the last question, which I'm going to ask all of our panelists here to just, if you had one piece of advice, I'm going to ask you to keep it to like 30 to 40 seconds. What would it be? And we're going to start with Greg. He hasn't started this in a while.
Okay. Be optimistic, be positive. You always got to think of it as in there's always going to be something bad that's going to happen, something that's not going to go your way. The pandemic has taught us that, and you make the best of what you can. And just always bet on yourself. You always got to like give yourself deadlines. If, you know, sometimes like if you're kind of like, oh, I'm not sure about this. Okay, you know, I'll give myself a week. If I can't do this within a week, then okay, let me resort to this. But kind of put yourself on the schedule, on the plan, like a plan right there. And other than that, but just always understand that things are never going to go your way. But the fact that you're moving forward, if you move one step back, that's okay because you just you know what to do better for the next move.
I would say to try new things. You know, don't be afraid. There's a lot of conferences here in Calcalpo y Pomona, and don't be afraid to ask your professors for that information, you know, even if you've never done it before, because I didn't know, and I went out there scared, but I still did it. So just go for the extra mile, you know. As an undocumented student, it's very important to have the right information. So always ask your professors, go to the Career Center and ask for that extra information that is not given to us. That's my advice for all of you.
My advice is to be present and enjoy your time right now. Adulting is not great. It has its benefits, but if I could go back and be in your shoes right now, I would trade it in an instant. Just be present in your classes. Enjoy what you're learning. I know it's hard not to just look for the future and say, oh, I need to be here at this time or this many years or whatever. Just enjoy your time at Cal Poly Pomona right now because it is a very rewarding experience.
My piece of advice might be something you will apply now, or maybe when you're 40 or 50, you'll think about my words, which is work someplace where you can put your family first. Short and sweet.
Mine's really practical. Test out organization methods and tracking of your tasks now. Figure out how that works for you. Is that a digital method? Is that on paper? Now's the time to test those things out. How do you keep track of all the stuff that you need to do? Because you're never going to have less to do as you continue through your career. And secondly, print out copies of your transcripts now because they're $6 a piece when you apply for jobs, and they take over 24 hours to process, and you will lose access to Bronco Direct or whatever it's called now.
True.
I'm sorry,
Sorry, I'm
it's
just having a
true.
moment
It's
where-
so true.
I'm having a moment remembering the job of applying for this position that I'm in right now. All right, well, I want to say thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you all very much for the time that you've taken to come to speak to our students and for the work that you're doing in their community just to make all of Southern California better. I also want to thank our students, those of you out there who came to, just hear and listen and get a little guiding light is a great thing. So thank you all very much. Brianne, I think there's food in the back, and I see lids coming off of trays now, so I think I timed that spot on. So thank you, everybody, very much. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your evening. Have a beautiful rest of your week. Thank you.